there's no such thing as climate.
You know, even the term black is weird. So
Jordan Peterson joined Joe Rogan for one hell of a ridiculous, absurd, embarrassing, and vapid conversation. Now, I have a couple of clips to share with you here, and this is a perfect example of why I stopped watching Joe Rogan's podcast. As I've discussed before in other videos, I used to watch his show almost religiously. From like 2013 to 2016, I watched practically, if not every episode, because I would put it on while I was working out. And it was on like 3 times a week, so I'd put on each episode and I'd watch it. But I stopped watching it because of crap like this, because this is what the conversations have turned into. So here's the first clip where Jordan Peterson opens by discussing the climate crisis and his thoughts on this.
climate change one is a weird one. So that
Well,
one,
that's because there's no such thing as climate, right? Climate and everything are the same word. And that's what bothers me about the climate change types. It's like, this is something that bothers me about it technically. It's like, well, climate is about everything. So, okay. But your models aren't based on everything. Your models are based on
Warming.
a set number of variables.
yeah.
So that means you've reduced the variables, which are everything, to that set. Well, how did you decide which set of variables to include in the equation if it's about everything? And that's not just a criticism. That's like, if it's about everything, your models aren't right. Because your models do not and cannot model everything.
This is what the podcast has turned into. Absolutely nothing was said for 50 seconds. There was nothing there. Completely vapid. I will get to the science in a second. But this is what the podcast is now. A couple of people who don't know anything about what they're talking about, just spewing random bullshit for 4 hours. That's what the podcast is. It is so incredibly embarrassing. And then on top of that, you have the tuxedo, the tie. Why is Jordan Peterson wearing a tuxedo? But whatever, put that aside. That's his own little quirk. He wants to wear a tuxedo, whatever. There is nothing in this conversation. This is completely empty. Peterson doesn't know, doesn't understand, is not educated in climate science. And in lieu of that, what a normal person would do is, hey, who are the experts in this field? What is the science saying? Science, a body of research. What is the vast majority of scientists saying about this topic as they are educated in this, have explained it? Okay, if you want to go deeper, let's look deeper into the data, what they have found. But doesn't do that. Just climate is everything, and because it's everything, you don't actually know if it's real. Like, what is he even saying? This is what I think of when I watch this clip, this meme. A guy with no brain thinking he's big brained. That's what this podcast is for 4 hours. And basically every show at this point, every one of these episodes is this is what the podcast is. No brain thinking they're big brain. There is nothing at all to that conversation. Now, on the science, before I get to the second clip here, just quickly, carbon dioxide over 800,000 years. Again, massive, this is a massive amount of data here, 800,000 years. And you see the massive increase most recently. Now, we go deeper into looking at greenhouse gases generally, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. This is how the science looked at it. Climate isn't everything. Climate, when it comes to the climate crisis, the science looked at, hey, what is causing this? Oh, these greenhouse gases. Okay, what is causing the increase in these greenhouse gases? Oh, look at that. Human activity is causing it. That's it. Now, obviously, there's a lot more science to it, but that is the basic understanding of why we are, or why the Earth is where it is right now, because of human behavior. Now, looking at this a little more specifically, carbon dioxide enters the atmosphere through burning fossil fuels, coal, natural gas, and oil, solid waste, trees, and other biological materials, and also as a result of certain chemical reactions like manufacturing of cement. Carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere or sequestered when it is absorbed by plants as part of the biological carbon cycle. When it comes to methane, methane is emitted during the production and transport of coal, natural gas, and oil. Methane emissions also result from livestock and other agricultural practices, land use, and by the decay of organic waste in municipal solid waste landfills. So this is the reality. This is what is going on. Peterson makes it out to be some theoretical conversation. No, there is actual. Why do we have to explain this in the year 2022? Really, this is so absurd. So let me get to the second clip here where they are talking about race.
What did Michael
Prejudice.
Eric Dyson call you? A mean, angry white man?
Mean, yeah, and a mean, angry white man. Yeah,
Hilarious.
yeah, yeah.
You're not mean at all.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what's dumb about that statement. It's you're not mean at all. It's
I am white. Actually, that's a lie too. I'm kind of tan, and he was actually not black.
If you're tan,
he was
what
sort
the
of
fuck
brown.
am I? Because I'm darker than you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, but neither of us are white.
Well, I'm Italian.
And he was
mostly.
brown, not black.
Well, isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's really
the
weird.
black and white thing is so strange
Yeah,
because
it's
the
like
shades are
tan and brown.
There's such a spectrum of shades of people. Unless you're talking to someone who is like 100% African from the darkest place where they're not wearing any clothes all day and they've developed all that melanin to protect themselves from the sun. You know, even the term black is weird. And when you use it for people that are literally my color, it becomes very strange.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
What? What is going on? This is so stupid. Black is not really black. White is not really white. I'm not really white. Hot dogs aren't really dogs. We are very smart people having a big brain conversation. Look, you want to take this as charitably as possible. I don't know why I just threw this paper towel. As charitably as possible. This is just complete stupidity. One of the dumbest conversations I've ever heard. And this guy was paid $100 million to do this. $100 million to have these kinds of conversations. It is amazing to me. You have two white guys here debating what it means to be black. Like, come on. Just try to, I don't know, step back a little bit, try to have a little perspective and reassess what your discussion is about here. It is so incredibly stupid. Like, I don't even, what commentary can I really do here? I think that should sort of speak for itself. But, you know, the other part of this, this was spurred by a criticism that Michael Eric Dyson had of Peterson, or a name he called him. Literally, I think it was 4 years ago, that conversation that Peterson had. It was a debate in Toronto. I watched it live at the time on through streaming, and it was like, that was 4 years ago. 4 years ago. You're talking about a name you recalled 4 years ago. These are children. Absolute children. Now, I just want to end on this. So recently I covered how Josh Zepps, for lack of a better term here, schooled Joe Rogan on the vaccines and myocarditis and how it's more common with COVID-19 than with the vaccines, a lot more common with getting COVID-19. But just to follow up on that, so, you know, it's rare. This is why I also think Rogan doesn't intentionally spew bullshit that he's just stupid. Part of it is I've watched him for 3 years. I know he's not very intelligent. The other part of it is he'll have people like Josh Zepps on who, you know, it's rare to have people like this on, these sorts of guests, but they happen. And when it's a good guest, they will actually challenge Rogan instead of just, you know, playing along with him. So Josh Zepps, as I covered in that video, challenged him. And further, last night he put this out, saying data out of Israel, where unlike the UK, mRNA was the main vaccine, suggests that vaccine-induced myocarditis is caused by the spike protein. In that case, COVID would cause the same condition in the same person, but more severely, attached to a fully fledged living virus. To be clear, whoever gets heart inflammation from Moderna would have almost certainly got it worse from COVID. The issue arises from the spike protein itself. That's why we don't see myocarditis from non-mRNA vaccines like AstraZeneca. And this was spurred from a conversation he had with a cardiologist about this and the data showing that, you know, what is causing the myocarditis. So I just wanted to, you know, update you on that conversation, showing you once again the kind of crap Rogan listens to. When he had on Candace Owens like 3 years ago, and Candace Owens was spewing anti-climate change bullshit, Rogan actually challenged her. But now he's not willing to do that, at least when it comes to certain guests. So he'll do when it comes to, you know, Candace Owens, won't challenge Jordan Peterson. Why? Because he's a professor that does not study climate either? Like, why won't you challenge Just the basic, obvious bullshit coming out of this man's mouth, and anyone else you have on the show, you just allow to sit there and spew crap. Meanwhile, you'll challenge Josh Sepps, who actually knows what he's talking about, but you won't challenge dipshits like Peterson. This show is unwatchable, and it is amazing to me. Like, I got to imagine Spotify is regretting this deal. Like, the amount of attention they've gotten. Neil Young just threatened to pull his music from Spotify over this. You know, it's the kind of thing where Rogan was dumb at the time when Spotify made that deal, but it was not at this point. COVID wasn't a thing yet, so it was pre-COVID, it was pre-pandemic, pre the vaccines, and this has really showcased, this past couple of years, have really showcased just how absolutely vapid and stupid Joe Rogan is.